Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Matt for Remnant TV. Well, they've done it again. Over there in the Eternal City, after Archbishop Carlo Vigano's explosive expose of corruption, abuse, homosexuality, and criminal cover-up, reaching all the way up the chain of command to the Pope himself, Team Bergoglio has finally decided they're going to address, they're going to dignify the charges by responding, sort of, kind of. They're going to convene a meeting, anyway, with the presidents of the bishops' conferences of the world on the theme of protection of minors. And when are they going to do this? February of 2019. That's right, next year. Once again, you just can't make this stuff up. They can't keep their own priests and bishops now on enough of a leash that they won't attack little kids. And the fact that they're doing that, well, of course they're doing that. We're going to have a conference now. But let's wait 5 months before we do it. Are they joking? They're going to wait nearly half a year to address this? I guess there's a pattern here, isn't there? Because ugly things are now emerging.
It seems then that only the Pope has the power to punish his cardinals. So why doesn't he take stronger action? Maybe because he too faced accusations in his homeland of Argentina long before his election.
Habemus Papa.
When he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he apparently tried to have a pedophile priest acquitted. In Buenos Aires, along with God, or rather Diego Maradona, the Pope is a star. His face is everywhere. And yet, some refuse to share in this iconographic cult. In the city center, we've arranged to meet a group of victims. They were abused by priests in the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires. They alerted Pope Francis when he was their Archbishop.
El caso de los sacerdotes pedófilos. Dice que esto nunca pasa en mi diócesis.
Nunca que él quiera admitir.
Es una mentira.
¿Quién intentó a contactar a Bergoglio?
¿Quién intentó?
Sí.
Yo intenté.
Todos.
Yo también. Todos, sí.
¿Todos?
Sí, sí.
¿Y quién tuvo una respuesta?
Nunca.
Nadie. A todos los famosos del mundo, Leonardo DiCaprio también fue a mostrarle el Oscar, a todos les abre las puertas.
Pero no,
y a nosotros no nos mandan ni una tarjetita para decir lo siento mucho.
No espero nada, no le creo nada.
Y sufrí mucho la decepción y me dolió mucho que Bergoglio no haga nada. Y todo el mundo a mí me decía que le escriba porque él me iba a contestar. Y sufrí mucho. Y estoy muy decepcionada. Eso.
But you love the Pope. Friends, it is time to grow up and face the reality, the harsh reality of what's happening here. And it's a reality that has apocalyptic implications, quite obviously. If the hierarchy, specifically Pope Francis, do not comply with Archbishop Vigano, the Catholic Church will not survive this crisis. Again, she will not survive. Not in her human element, certainly not in every country. Don't you understand? That's what's at stake. That's what's going on. This is not about the popularity of Pope Francis. This is about the future of the Church. What we're looking at right now is the work of scheming, plotting enemies inside the gates, attempting to completely discredit the Catholic Church in the modern world. And we're going to sit here as Catholics and take it? While they're out canonizing the very people who helped institutionalize a cultural cover-up for child-abusing clerics in the Church? While they're out hobnobbing with the pro-aborts and the population controllers and Jeff Sachs and the United Nations fellas, refusing to answer serious, credible charges of abuse of kids, and instead attacking the victims? Heck, Pope Francis now if I'm understanding this poor befuddled old man correctly, he apparently, during a sermon at Casa San Marte, he apparently suggested that the devil, who he calls the great accuser, has been let loose and that he's got it in for these bishops, seeking to reveal their sins so he can scandalize us. Isn't that terrible?
Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. Pope Francis finally broke his silence on the sex abuse scandal and cover-up in the Catholic Church. And I'm almost speechless at what he said. Let me read it to you. The Pope said, and this was during Mass this morning, he said, "In these times, it seems like the great accuser has been unchained and is attacking bishops. True, we are all sinners, we bishops. He tries to uncover the sins so they are visible in order to scandalize the people. The great accuser, as he himself says to God in the first chapter of the book of Job, roams the earth looking for someone to accuse. A bishop's strength against the great accuser is prayer, that of Jesus and his own, and the humility of being chosen and remaining close to the people of God, etc., etc. So we, the Catholic people, who care about sexually abused children and the evil men who covered up that abuse, to the Pope that makes us Satan? No, I think you have that backwards. The men who abused and covered up that abuse, they are doing the works of Satan."
Dear God, who's advising this man? What kind of demon is suggesting that the Holy Father should behave this way? This is just too much. The enemy obviously has gotten over the wall for 500 years. He's been hell-bent on getting over that wall, on destroying the papacy, the Mass, the priesthood. Well, here we are. This is Luther's revenge, the triumph of Freemasonry, and the abomination of desolation, all rolled up in one. Welcome to the party. And how did this happen, friends? If we're going to have any clue on what to do next, what to do tomorrow, as soldiers of Christ, if we're going to have any clue what to do, we need to understand how we got to this point in the church. We need to look back. We need to go back 50 years. And listen to what the pioneer traditional Catholics were saying, what they were saying, what they were shouting from the housetops, that if these modernists were not stopped, evil would manifest itself in the holy place, in the sanctuary, in the Vatican itself. But nobody listened. And a lot of these old traditionalists went to their deathbed being mocked by the church, being mocked by the neo-Catholics as paranoid conspiracy theorists. Well, look around. Because maybe they had a point. You see what I'm getting at? Friends, when you look at your children tonight, and you tuck them into bed, think about what their tomorrow's going to look like if this is allowed to go on. What we're looking at right now is the culmination of all that is the triumph of evil inside the Holy Church. Changes made down over the past 5 decades, changes inside the Catholic Church that have left the Church vulnerable to attack. Remember when John the 23rd threw open the window to the world? He opened the window so that evil could come in. Whether he intended that or not, that's what happened. Evil came in. The fort was compromised by those who should have known better, by those who should have defended her, as John Fisher said. And now we're facing a world without the exorcism, without the priest, without the sacrifice, without the rituals and the prayers and the ancient Catholic Mass, without the ancient sacraments. Everything has been changed, right? Including the sacraments, including the Mass. All those things which were literally fulfilled with exorcisms, protected in the sacred language of Latin, also the terror of demons. All of it's been changed. All of it's been thrown aside. And these things were literally the terror of demons down through the ages. The weapons of spiritual warfare given to us by Christ himself, given to us by Holy Mother the Church. And so the reason the traditionalists resisted the new Mass and the post-conciliar popes was not because they were arrogant and they were more Catholic than the Pope and they knew better than the Church. No, it's because they had done their homework. And they knew from reading Pope Pius X, St. Pius X, the great prophet of the last century. They recognized it as a ceasefire against evil, as hoisting the white flag in the battle against the demons, as a seditious attempt to subvert, undermine, and destroy history's most powerful exorcist, the Holy Catholic Church. Don't you see? This is what it was about. But don't you think that maybe those traditional Catholics might have had a point? Look around you. Millions of human sacrifices of little babies every year. Marriage destroyed, family life destroyed, violence in the streets, chaos, apostasy, civil unrest everywhere. Churches closed, whole orders of nuns disappeared, convents closed, predators in the house of God, child molesters, sodomites and Roman collars, for heaven's sakes. So bad that Our Lady of Fatima saw it coming, and she came down and she tried to intervene. She tried to warn us. And what did these same modernists in charge today and their immediate predecessors do? What did they do? They told her to go to hell. Gee, I wonder why we have problems in the church. All we did was tell the Mother of God to go to hell, and we will not comply. These post-Vatican II churchmen brought this death sentence upon themselves. These modernists brought it upon themselves with their anemic theology and their homo-friendly liturgies. They tore out the altar of sacrifice. They wrecked the priesthood. They trivialized the Roman rite. They abolished the Friday abstinence, the Ember Days. They brought in the altar girls. They brought in the communion in the hand. All of which represents their breaking of the covenant with God. The mighty Catholic Church, which civilized the world, which gave us the greatest civilization in history, just 50 years after Vatican II, can now plausibly be portrayed as an organized crime syndicate, crawling with predators and criminals. Well played, Vatican II. And now the state is just this close to outlawing the Catholic Church altogether from our society. And what do you think that's going to look like? Again, think of your children. What's their future going to look like? What is our future in 10 years? Imagine going to church on a Saturday afternoon to go to confession. Only one little problem. There's no little green light on. There's no line of penitence. There's no priest behind the screen. Imagine going to Sunday Mass, but nobody's there except for a guitar strumming Sister Thelma Lou offering some sort of cockamamie communion service. No priest, no consecration, no Mass. Your mother or your father lying on their deathbed somewhere. You call the parish house, but there's no answer. In a few hours, your mother is going to take her last breath without Holy Viaticum, without the last rites, without absolutions, and again, the demons will laugh because they will have triumphed. You see, friends, this is what we face. And we need to restore a certain sense of urgency and stand up and fight back. This is chastisement. When we can't go to Mass, when we can't go to confession, when we can't get the last rites because the priests have all quit, or they're in jail, or they've been banned, as the Freemasons banned them in Mexico a few years ago, or in France a couple hundred years before that, and now Vatican II, whatever you think, whether it was derailed and co-opted, or whether it was designed from the start to do this, Vatican II has joined that revolutionary effort to remove the Mass, to remove the priesthood from society. Because the churches, since Vatican II, are closing. There's a crisis in vocations. There's a crisis now of clerical sexual abuse. It's over. So what are we still defending Vatican II for? Does anybody know? What has this infernal council done for you lately? Can you name it? Can you name the documents? What about it is so great that bishops and cardinals are going to go to their grave defending this disaster? Heaven's name, why defend that which spawned an evil spirit, even by their own admission, that is now this close to destroying both the papacy and the Catholic Church, and long ago trivialized the Mass? That's turning the priesthood into a gay profession so corrupt that no healthy young man will set foot in a seminary a few years from now. And no, I don't blame the media for any of this. We brought it on ourselves.